Quiet.
Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
can you state
She's asking a
categorically,
question. Don't
Mr.
be
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You are
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can
No,
you
I'm
give
not
us a
going to give you a
question?
question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir. Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Dave versus the MSM. I'd like to thank you for joining me today. Thank you for networking this information to all those you know and love. And the single greatest Christmas gift I believe you can give yourself and others is the opportunity to get ahead of the curve. We're at a breaking point in this country and around the world. Folks are going to see that 2023 and 2024 were the make or break times. And I hope we make it and we break the deep state. And the way we do that is getting ahead of the curve. Getting information to help us protect ourselves and our families and our loved ones. That's what we do at DaveJanda.com. It's not hyperbole. It's the facts. If you talk to the people that subscribe to our platform, DaveJanda.com, they'll tell you, you know, Janda and his sources that he's developed over 35 years put me years ahead of the curve. And while other people are having issues and problems, we're doing okay. And we're going to continue doing okay. That's what we do at DaveJanda.com. Tremendous amount of free public information. But the in-depth information, the information that puts you months, years ahead of the curve, are part of our subscription service. Give yourself the best Christmas holiday gift you've ever given to yourself. $9 a month. You don't have to sign up for a year. You sign up for it's every month. Try it out. You'll see. You have access to shows that are not on the public platforms. You have access to all of our archives. All of our guests, all of our great guests with great analysis. Greatest gift you can give to someone else. It's a gift that keeps on giving. The gift of knowledge, the gift of information, the gift of being ahead of the curve. Give a $27 check or an $18 check to a family member. Say, here it is for 2 months at DaveJanda.com, and after that, it's on you. Because we're at a breaking point, folks. Well, we got 2, possibly 3 wars on the stove. The cult wants you to think that the coming financial crash, and we're in the midst, we're not in a recession. We've been in a recession for several years. We've been in a depression for the past probably 11, 12 months. And it's ongoing and getting worse and going to get even worse. The cult wants you to think, the globalist cult, that this financial takedown is because, well, there are all these wars. It's actually the opposite. Whatever they say, it's the opposite. The financial takedown has been rigged. And the globalist cult banking syndicate has positioned themselves perfectly for when the buildings fall in their own footsteps this year. The wars are cover. Oh, the financial system, well, it went down because of the war. No, the wars are as cover for the financial system, because if there were no wars and the financial system came down, what would you do? You'd point at the banksters, say, hey, you run these banking houses. You're responsible for this going down. So they create their wars. Banksters always. Smedley Butler, one of our nation's most decorated military leaders, 100 years ago, almost 90 years ago, 1935, wrote the book, War is a Racket. He said, they're all created. They're banker wars. So bankers get more power, control, and more financial resources. And so that if there's economic upheaval, people point at the wars as the cause. No. The wars were created Just as the Middle East war now, the Russia-Ukraine war, the coming China-Taiwan war, to divert people's attention. So that you blame, well, it's savages, the terrorists. It was Israel's reaction. It was Russia doing this. Is Ukraine doing that? It was China doing this. Taiwan doing. No, the system was rigged to blow because they want every single person of the world, exclusive of the cult. And what? There are about 3,000 or 5,000 of them. They want everybody else destitute. They call all of us useless eaters. And they're going to blame the financial takedown on the wars. In fact, they just started. Two of their higher level, middle level puppets, Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, and Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, just told you that. Middle East war could spark global recession, say Wall Street experts. Let me tell you what sparked the recession several years ago and the current depression we've been in for a year. And that is the banksters themselves, because they're intent on bringing down the system because they have positioned themselves so that as the system comes down, they get more power, control, and financial resources. Yeah. From Simon Goodley, a global recession could be set in motion by the conflict in the Middle East as the humanitarian crisis compounds the challenges facing an already precarious world economy. Two of Wall Street's biggest names have warned, Larry Fink of BlackRock and Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan. As predicted. I've been telling you they were going to do this. They did. They're out there. But remember who the real culprit of this financial takedown, because that's key. And pass this on to your friends and family. Jim McCarthy wrote the book, The Money Spiders. Remember, one of the tentacles of the banking syndicate is the Federal Reserve System. Remember, okay, one more time. The Federal Reserve in the United States, the central banks around the world, but the Federal Reserve in the United States. A couple of years ago, I went out the streets of Ann Arbor, where knowledge is just so plentiful, right? Because, well, the wonderful University of Michigan. I went around the streets. I asked people on the street, hey, Federal Reserve, you know what that is? Yeah, they're in charge of money and the banks. And okay. I go, are they part of the United States government? People look at me cross-eyed. Yeah, of course. Oh, what branch are they part of? Executive, legislative, or judicial? Most people guessed executive branch. Some guessed legislative. There wasn't anybody who guessed judicial. So, just like Federal Express, federal, it's in its name, is not part of the federal government, the Federal Reserve is not part of the federal government. It is a group of independent bankers that in 1913 wrestled control, thanks to globalist Woodrow Wilson, who was president at the time, of the printing of the currency of the United States. And with that, they took control of the United States. 1913. Jim McCarthy, the Money Spiders. Quote, sneaky and underhanded, the Federal Reserve has been sucking the lifeblood out of the United States since 1913. Like a black widow spider, it weaves a web of corruption and deceit. Unknown to its prey, the Fed's bite is poisonous, deep, long-lasting, and brings financial upheaval and misery to Americans, end quote. Yeah, every American. Folks, this inflation that we're seeing, this stagnation that we're seeing, stagflation, is not an accident. It's not a coincidence. It's not incompetence. It's deliberate. It's planned. The takedown of the United States dollar, the takedown of the system is deliberate. It's to implement the banksters' New World Order, one world government, and their globalist agenda. The system is imploding. And they want you tuned in to CNBS, as I call it, Fox Business News, right? The Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, Reuters, all globalist syndicate puppet tools where they go, oh, everything's perfect. Don't worry. Keep buying those paper assets, that are backed by vapor. Oh, and King, Larry Kudlow on Fox Business News. King Dollar. King Dollar. Tell that to the BRICS countries. The system, the numbers behind the curtain are falling apart. And they don't want you to realize it. They want you to think, well, I'm out of work because, it's my fault. My neighbor's out of work because, it's his fault. We're just, They don't want you to realize that the employment figures are bogus. Smoke and mirrors with their birth-death adjustment models and this and that. And they don't want you to realize, excuse me, it's all falling apart. U.S. retail sales declined as student debt payments resumed in October. Walmart sales plummet. What's that tell you about the consumer? Huge bank deposit outflows from banks across the country. Why are there bank outflows? Because people have to pay their bills and they're dipping into their savings? No, not dipping, like rifling their savings. Industrial production plunges. Continuing jobless claims surges. That they're trying to tell you the job market's great. Interest on U.S. debt skyrockets above $1 trillion for the first time ever. Meanwhile, the Congressional Budget Office now predicts that the United States government debt will rise by $20 trillion the next 10 years. We're already $33 trillion in debt. How do you pay that debt off? Well, you can grow out of it. How do you grow out of $33 trillion of debt with another $20 trillion coming? You can't. Well, then you'd have to default on it. Just walk away from it. What's that going to do to your financial life? Or you can just print funny money to pay off the debt in depreciated dollars. What does that cause? Hyperinflation. Meanwhile, the big boys have been protecting themselves and making sure that when the buildings come down, they're protected. Moody's, a rating agency, has estimated that big banks are sitting on $650 billion with a B dollars of unrealized losses. $650 billion. So you might say, well, even if my bank goes down, my bank is protected by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC. Yeah. Well, if you go to the FDIC website, which I did, the FDIC is backstopping $17 trillion with a T, $17 trillion worth of deposits. And then if you go to a hidden part of their website and see exactly how much does the FDIC have to backstop that $17 trillion, they obviously have to have more than $17 trillion. No, they have $125 billion. What? Yeah, $17 trillion is $17,000 billion. And they're backstopping $17,000 billion with $125 billion. Right. And what did I tell you before? There are all these huge outflows at banks. Folks, it's a point now where the rating agencies are cutting the rating of the United States debt. That's bad. Moody's cuts USA's AAA rating outlook to negative. After a disastrous 30-year bond auction. Why is that? Because nobody wants to buy our debt, DEBT. Meanwhile, what are the banksters doing? Central bank gold buying binge is even bigger than previously thought. Central banks have loaded up on more gold than previously thought this year. Countries also expanded their bullion reserves by 337 tons in the past 3 months through September. This follows an increase of 175 tons in the second quarter and 103 tons in the first quarter. Central bank purchases of gold for the first 9 months of the year now total over 800 tons, driven mainly by China. The pace has exceeded the amount for the same period of last year, which ended in a record demand. Jim Grant, one of the most honest people on Wall Street, hated by the banksters, recently said, "Gold's about to have its day." Jim Grant warns no one's prepared for higher yields for much, much, much longer. He said, "I think gold ought not to trade it as an inflation hedge, but as an investment in monetary disorder, of which we surely have enough in the world. Don't turn your backs on gold. I think gold's going to have its day." Really hasn't had its day yet, as I see it. And you see the BRICS countries moving to a new trade currency. Brazil, Russia, India, China, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, and now 41 other countries want to join. Why? Because they see the demise of the dollar. The dollar is backed by the faith and credit of the United States government, that government that's $33 trillion in debt. It's backed by vapor. And countries, Russia, China, India, Turkey, Indonesia, are all loading up on precious metals, gold and silver. The banksters are loading up on gold and silver. Why? Because they know the financial system's coming down. And when the financial system comes down, and thousands of years have taught us this, the entities that hold value and enhance wealth are precious metals. Yeah. So you need to protect yourself. There are many things you can do to protect yourself. One, probably the most important, is stay informed. And the way you do that is you turn off the boob tube. You don't read the bought-off, lamestream, fake media tentacle garbage. That's meant to get you off balance, get you going the wrong way. Stick with the independent media, of which this platform is a part of the independent media, of which DaveChanda.com is as well. Stay ahead of the curve. Educate and empower your friends and family. Storable food, storable water. Numana, NUMANNA.com. Best company in that business. You have to have a means of protecting yourself and your family. You have to network with your neighbors, friends. Okay, look, if the system comes down, I know but let's get ahead of the curve here. The system comes down. This is what I'm going to bring to the party as far as my knowledge base, my medicine. You're an engineer. You can fix things, right? So if our furnaces go off, you can help work on those. Great. What are you going to bring? What are you going to bring? That's really important. And financially, gold and silver. Gold is going to appreciate incredibly, as is silver. Gold is what's going to buy you the big stuff. But the day-to-day stuff is going to be done with silver. And if you don't believe me, we have viewers and listeners and subscribers at DaveChanda.com from Venezuela, from Argentina, some countries that underwent hyperinflationary times, in Africa. And I said, Dave, thanks for letting me know about this, because if I hadn't done the steps you talked about and protected myself, I'd be dead. My family would be dead. In Venezuela, our listeners, told me that they bought some silver as a insurance policy. And when it hit the fan, when other people were starving and couldn't get food, the farmers were not accepting Venezuela currency because it was paper mache, essentially. But they were accepting silver. And they were getting, for families of 4, a week's supply of food for an ounce of silver. Yeah. All paper currencies turn to dust. Historically, that's what's happened. Lose value. Tremendous value. And unfortunately, too many people believe that won't happen. Too many people believe that there's nothing they can do to protect themselves. Too many people believe that it's over. It's not over. Unless you want it to be over. If you take some of these steps, yeah, it's going to be tough times. And we're going to see it in 2024. But you'll come out okay. In fact, you might even come out ahead. But you got to do something. Because the cult wants you sitting on the couch, consuming their propaganda, locking yourself down, being in fear, being miserable, whining, and not taking the appropriate actions. Don't do that. Don't do that. Educating empower as many people as possible with the information. We are there 24/7 at DaveJanna.com for you. Tremendous amount of public free information there. But where the real meat of the matter is, on issues I cannot discuss on any social media platform or on the radio, is on the subscription side. We hope you become part of our freedom family. Until next time, Dave Janna signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for your time today.